on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. Oh, the devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Hey guys, welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Can I call you Uncle Baby Dylan?
Uncle Baby Dylan Freeman.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're supposed to run out and get me some Funyuns.
Running through the house with a pickle in my mouth.
Misbehaving. If you have not seen The Righteous Gemstones
It's
on
hilarious.
HBO, we've recently discovered this show and binged 1.5 seasons.
Yup.
Hilarious.
Pretty funny.
You're a Danny McBride fan,
Yup.
which we are.
He's the creator, producer, all that stuff on this. And you can tell because of the humor. And it's pretty fun. And you know what? It'll have you misbehaving.
I'm going to get you a shirt that says misbehaving.
Uncle Baby Dylan.
How you been, Dylan?
I have been wonderful.
You have?
Yeah, I feel good today.
We've had a snowy week here.
And it's been cold.
It's been very cold. Dropped down into the teens. I'm not a cold weather person. This sucks.
Yeah, we got about a month and a half left of it, and we'll start seeing the signs of spring.
I hope so. I'm ready to have a beautiful spring
You want to bask in the sunlight.
with lots of sunshine.
Oh my gosh,
Absolutely.
You mean we're gonna be floating on the lake somewhere?
That would be wonderful, Dylan.
Okay.
As you said, that'd be wonderful.
Now, let's turn to something serious. You have something very serious for us.
I do have something very serious for everyone out there. We have a missing person to talk about, and this is a person who is near and dear to my heart. Her name is Sandra Carrie Bryson. She is missing from Haywood County, North Carolina. She's 39 years old. She's 5'6". She weighs 150 pounds. She has sort of a sandy blonde, color hair, about shoulder length, blue eyes. She was last seen in Waynesville on November 24th. She's a family member. She's a relative. There's been a lot of rumor mill circulating about her whereabouts. As you know, with missing persons cases, if you listen to true crime podcasts, some of those rumors are not positive and are pretty sad. But it's the same situation you get into, Dylan, where folks who seem to maybe know something don't want to come forward with the information.
Well, yeah, this being a small town, kind of tight-knit community, I think someone out there definitely knows something about maybe her whereabouts or the circumstances that happened right before she, went missing there in November. So I think definitely someone out there could know more than they're saying.
We have a very small, close-knit family. She doesn't have a lot of extended family. Her sister is the one that initially made the police report. And as a family, I know relatives have tried reaching out to her friends and other folks that she knows, and no one's being very forthcoming with information right now. And like you said, Dylan, I think someone out there knows something, but Carrie's a mother and she does have family and she's loved and she's got a lot of friends, and it is a small town, so a lot of folks in the community know her. It's just a really sad thing, especially when you have folks who could possibly help and don't want to cooperate. But if you have some information about Carrie, if you know her, if you're in the area, I know we have a lot of local listeners, Dylan, please contact the Haywood County Sheriff's Office, 452-6666, and that's an area code of 828. So 828-452-6666. And we actually posted her photo and some information on Instagram a few posts ago. So if you go to our Instagram, you can kind of scroll through. I believe I also posted it on Twitter. Wanted to put that information out there.
Yeah, and always remember, you can give tips and information to the police anonymously.
You can.
Why is the sheriff's department phone number so metal?
6666.
No.
I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
You want that phone number,
They're
don't
doing
you?
the damn thing over there.
Oh, Dylan, anything else you've got going on before we get into today's case?
No, you have a great story. Nothing stands out to me in true crime news. I'm sure I missed something, But this is a great story. Well, I say great, but it's obviously about bad things. And I think we should just get right into it.
You're ready.
I am ready.
Okay, Uncle Baby Dylan, let's do it. In 1697, William Congreve wrote in his book, The Morning Bride, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned."
That phrase, that is definitely true.
You
Let's
think
say-
so?
Yeah, I think so.
By today's standards, the proverb has become somewhat controversial. As we see in many true crime cases, women aren't solely responsible for crimes of passion. Humans are delicate creatures emotionally, and we react sometimes angrily or with malice when we're romantically rejected or betrayed. Today's case is definitely one of the more peculiar crimes that we've covered. What makes a perfect couple, Dylan? Is it success, love, understanding? In your mind, what makes a perfect couple?
Well, I think the chemistry between them is very important, and that affects everything else.
You think so?
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Okay. Well, I think you're onto something there. William and Mary Yoder appeared to be the perfect couple. They owned a successful chiropractic clinic where they worked side by side, and they raised 3 good children who were accomplished in their own right. Sounds like a perfect couple, right?
Well, yeah, you have two professionals, and yeah, they've got together, and the world is their oyster.
38 years of marriage, this couple.
That's a long time.
That is a very long time.
Do you think people nowadays will stay together like that?
They can. They're willing to put in the work.
It is, yeah, it's not easy.
Compromise.
Yeah, but compromise, working through, the troubles and the bad times. And I think it's very important if you do stay in a long-term relationship like that to forgive and forget to a degree. You never truly forget. But if you have a major issue and you stay together and you work through it, you got to move on. You can't live in the past.
It's true. You can't beat a dead horse, as they say, Dylan.
You cannot.
But the Yoder's relationship didn't start off with fireworks. When they met in Buffalo, New York, while attending college back in 1975, they were merely roommates in a boarding house. William liked Mary, but didn't think of her in romantic terms. She was nice, even-tempered young woman, but she had a boyfriend. However, love is a tricky thing, even fickle at times, and it grows. So over the course of their time living together, the relationship, which started out just as casual friends, blossomed into something more. As soon as Mary had ended the relationship with her boyfriend, William was there to offer companionship. There was just something about Mary.
Oh my gosh, William was in the friend zone just waiting.
And William fell in love with her. She was described by many, including her husband Bill, as someone who radiated warmth, peace, and love. Just a really wonderful person to be around.
She sounds great. Do you think that's how people would describe you?
No. She was full of piss and vinegar, and venomous rhetoric would spew from her lips.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably about it.
There's a stark contrast there to those two comparisons.
Okay, well, yeah. William was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and after a stint in the U.S. Army, he settled in Buffalo, where he began studying philosophy. Mary Bakert was from Utica, New York. She attended community college, then transferred to the University of Buffalo. A doer and incredibly motivated, Mary was headed for great things. Bill, however, was treading water. Now, at the time the pair met, Bill had been in graduate school for 7 years.
Damn, Bill, what you trying to learn?
Lifelong student. He needed to basically shit or get off the pot, as they say, Dylan. He had a dissertation to write, but continued procrastinating and wasn't even sure what he wanted to do with his life. Why do I feel like that could easily be you? You're a big procrastinator.
Well, yeah, I can procrastinate with the best of them, but I don't know if I'd ever be a perpetual student.
I feel like you could just tread water, work like, oh, well, maybe I have this dissertation to write, but it'll write itself. Dylan will be like, it will or it won't write itself.
Yeah, well, I guess if I ever was in that needed to write a dissertation, and it probably would have come to the very last minute, it'd be like 2.5 years later, he'd be like, guy, You gotta. I mean, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm still trying to decide what subject I want to be, do my dissertation on.
Exactly. I know. So Bill kind of reminded me a little bit of you when I read about him.
They'll see me in the bar drunk, be like, shouldn't you be back writing your dissertation?
When Mary completed college, the couple decided to do something unexpected and adventurous. They sold off all their belongings to go west.
Now that sounds exciting to do to me.
Right?
Now it's a little scary, but I think I could try that if it was just me and you, and we didn't have any cheering counting on some of us.
Those little cock blockers.
God, they're trip blockers.
Standing in the way of our destiny and our good times, Dylan.
When you blow up at your kids, be like, all I want to do is liquidate my assets and go west, but I can't do it because of you. Oh my God.
I can't go prospect.
No, but it sounds very exciting. Very, you're an adventure of sorts.
I want to buy a covered wagon and just go west.
You're just going to be on like I-40
Yeah.
heading west.
Yeah, like going through Memphis with my covered wagon.
That sounds scary.
My horse shitting all along the highway. Sounds fun, huh? Well, with no destination or plans in mind, they drove and drove and drove. And eventually they settled in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where they lived in a tent at first.
Well, that's one way to start out.
It was the end of the hippie movement, so not completely unheard of for a young couple to go off-grid. I think there are quite a few folks returning to that sort of ideology in today's world.
Oh, yeah, it's van life all over again.
Van life, exactly. Eventually, they both landed jobs at Pizza Hut using their small salaries to cover rent on an adobe-style house. Both liked the western United States. Of course, Bill had grown up in the desert. They got engaged, and that's when they headed back to Utica. Bill found work teaching at Vassar College, but he wasn't really happy. And then the couple took a job in South Carolina, where Bill would be teaching at Furman University. So the couple moved down to Greenville. And by 1981, Bill was just kind of, toiling away teaching, but it wasn't the most fulfilling thing for Bill. It's like it wasn't exactly what he wanted to be doing.
Well, yeah, after all that time in school, it's unfortunate to be in that position, to be in a, in a job or doing things that you don't really care for. I'm sure you have a feeling of what am I doing with my life? What direction do I have?
By 1981, Bill bumped into an old friend who was studying at a chiropractic school. After some consideration, Bill was interested. It combined the things he was into, such as wellness, philosophy, holistic medicine, and a healthy lifestyle. Mary thought it was a great idea, and she decided to enroll as well. So you've got Bill and his wife. They've started a young family together, and then they're both going to go to chiropractic school at the same time, which is not... I'm not going to say it's not affordable, but it costs a lot of money to go to chiropractic school, and you've got two folks not working and going to school, so that can leave a dire financial situation.
I could imagine.
Now, Bill was much older than Mary and considered the dedication to becoming a chiropractor. He would be like in his late 30s by the time he finished school. But the way he looked at it is like time kind of comes and goes either way, so why not accomplish something meaningful?
Yeah, he was like 10 years her senior, but, that's enough time to matter. But, I mean, if he enjoys it, and it's never too late to try something new, right?
The young couple already had a daughter, Leanna. She was born in 1978. And so by now, they were living on student loans. There was some rumor that Bill grew and sold the weed to make ends meet.
So Bill's cultivating the reefers.
Well, that's what some folks say was happening at this time to make the money. They were deeply in debt, but it was important for them as a couple to live their dream together. Eventually, they moved back to the Mohawk Valley of New York, where they'd set up a practice. By then, they had welcomed children Tamarin and Adam to the family. So 3 kids, graduate from the chiropractic school, return back to the New York area where Mary had grown up, and, start this big practice together.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, really. It's a lot of hard work.
Well, it does, and I think it just sort of speaks to Bill and Mary's relationship because this situation could spin out of control for a lot of couples. We know financial struggles, a big road to divorce if you've got those financial troubles. And so here you've got Bill and Mary both going to school. That can't be easy. I mean, this is a program where you'd really have to concentrate, give it a lot of focus and attention. Plus, you've got a family, you've got young kids at home. The money's not coming in, kind of living like, paycheck to paycheck, so to speak. And they were able to make it through that situation, graduate from this chiropractic school, move. They've had several big moves, which is another stressor. I mean, it seems like they have been, as a couple, able to overcome a lot of obstacles or stressors.
Well, I think in this situation, it's kind of different than some others. They're both doing it. They're both going to school, the same study, which you study together. So I think you're minus that. Sometimes the other spouse may resent the person who's still going to school, or after a while, because it's hard. All the things you described, the financial stress, and all that. So yeah, they're both going through it. So maybe they're leaning on each other for support.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a good point to show the kind of relationship that they had. Life in Whitesboro, New York was fine. The couple built chiropractic family care. They bought a modest middle-class home, and they were involved in the community doing charity work. In Whitesboro, they found a good mix of young professionals, families like themselves, and retirees, which equaled a solid patient list. Mary was a wonderful chiropractor by all accounts. She had grown up with 5 sisters, so she had a need to take care of others. That was very much a part of her personality. She was also into eating healthy, organic foods, and whole health. Like, you can come to me, I'm a chiropractor, and I'll help you if you're having, pain or stiffness, that kind of thing. But she really wanted her patients to lead healthy lifestyles.
Yeah, I used to have a doctor who was just like that. You'd come in talking about some small issue, and he'd help you with that. But then he'd sit there and talk to you for 30 minutes about nutrition, exercise, ask you what you're doing, kind of try to get to know you in your daily life. And I think people notice that when a healthcare provider, which, it's chiropractors. Some people, there's the argument between the healthcare and chiropractor. But anyway, she just wants them to be overall healthy and happy.
If a patient couldn't afford care, Mary and Bill allowed them to, for example, pay with fresh vegetables from their garden or work out some kind of trade. Instead of making money, the couple really focused on creating an environment focused on, these healthy lifestyles for their patients. And their patients looked at Bill and Mary not as, a provider, a doctor, but as a friend. They had these long-lasting relationships with their patients.
Well, yeah, and that's how you build up a family practice in an area like that you have a lot of loyalty from your patients.
After 28 years in practice together, by 2015, Bill had scaled down his work hours. He was working 2 days a week, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays, while Mary worked the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. When Mary wasn't working at their office, she would drive into Amish country to provide treatments. And when she wasn't working, Dylan, Mary was an accomplished gardener and an avid potter. She was also a Shake Lee representative, selling supplemental shakes, vitamins, and weight loss solutions. Because again, she was into whole health, and these were the protein shakes. She thought they were a great meal supplement.
Yeah, it sounds like Herbalife.
Yeah. Kind of like that.
She's trying to sign all her friends and family up.
Have you ever taken any shakes like that or supplemental, the Herbalife or Plexus?
I think at some point I was suckered into a round of that stuff by somebody.
You were?
Yeah.
It's funny. I can't imagine you being yes, I'll drink these shakes.
I will drink this shake and then I will eat all these vitamins.
I've never gotten into those shakes. They just never seemed filling to me.
No.
Right?
No, it's not going to be enough.
It's always
for me.
if I have that shake, I'm going to be starving in 2 seconds.
Well, yeah, I want to have the shake with my snack.
Yeah, exactly. The couple, particularly Bill, wanted to retire. The idea was to sell the business so they could travel, but they kept putting it off. First, Dylan, they had a lot of debt. Bill had written 2 self-help books, and they had used a lot of their nest egg savings to cover marketing the publications, which hadn't gone as well as they had hoped.
Well, yeah, I don't know how hot of a market that is, you know?
Oh, I think there's a pretty hot market for self-help books.
So his just didn't hit.
Maybe not.
So they had like half the garage is full of his books and boxes.
Selling the practice meant staying on for at least 2 more years in order to train a new chiropractor. They would have to get patients settled. So selling didn't mean they could retire right away. It would still be a long process.
So it's like they sell, but then they have to transition over.
Exactly, which
Okay.
could take about 2 years. Bill had gotten an inheritance, but it was kind of small, and he knew it wasn't enough for both of them to live on. He told people it was only enough money for him to sustain retirement but not marry, which is something that might come back and bite him later.
Oh my gosh.
Secondly, Mary was younger than Bill. She was full of energy and probably not entirely ready to give up on working because, again, she's like 10 years younger than Bill. She's like 60, he's 70.
Yeah, and for someone to say that, for Bill to say that, that's not certainly not like some horrible dark thing to say. That's just being realistic, because your retirement funds are structured a certain way. They're limited, and yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that would get him by, but not Mary as well. You know,
I'm happy that you have just enough money for you to retire, and I have no retirement. So this is exciting, Dylan. We're just winging it.
Well, so there you go. That statement may come back to bite you in the ass later. I'm just saying.
I'm not going to get old. I'm just going to get to a certain age and then just be like, I'm done.
We're like, I just can't do this
anymore.
anymore.
This is when the shit starts happening. This is like when my body's going to start falling apart. You know, this is when I'm going to need more frequent oil changes and tune-ups and, you know, I don't know.
So basically your retirement is going to be when the doctor says you can't go to work anymore because you're having some kind of health failure.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I think that's a lot of Americans' retirement plan.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, but yeah, I certainly don't have any solid pension, so that hardly exists anymore.
That's why we need this podcast to blow up, okay?
Boom.
On July 20th of 2015, a Monday, Mary woke up around 6:30 a.m. to start her day. This was around her usual wake-up time. She had a 10-hour shift with 30 client appointments scheduled. It was a day when Bill didn't work at the office. Mary loved summer. She enjoyed gardening and doing outdoor activities. Mary and Bill had taken, they hadn't taken a vacation for more than just a couple of days because they couldn't leave their work. So for 38 years of marriage, 28 years working as chiropractors, they were never able to go out of town for more than like a weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Or like 3 days at a time.
Well, that stings.
Right?
Sometimes you got to get away.
But again, Mary and Bill are very devoted to what they do. So for them, this was not like a huge problem. I guess taking the vacations wasn't a huge priority for them. But they had finally planned a lengthy European vacation. At Christmas, their daughter Liana had given them a cruise, like a European cruise. So their plan was to go on the cruise and then spend like an extra 3 weeks bumming around Europe.
Damn.
Awesome vacation, right?
Yeah, it sounds incredible. So they finally were in the position where they could leave their practice that long. But you know, when people have all that tied up in their own practice and stuff, this is just normal to them. It doesn't bother them. Well, they may be like, I wish I could, get away for longer. But it's just the way it goes.
Mary was really looking forward to this trip. They had spent like the early part of 2015 in the year like planning this trip, the itinerary, where they were going to go. I mean, they're going to Europe. They're going to hit all the hot spots. Really enjoy this vacation, right? And they were going to take that in early September. So it was only like maybe 6 weeks away. And on this particular day, Mary left home around 7:45. She arrived at the office about 15 minutes later. She already had patients waiting for her in the lobby. Mary seemed perfectly fine that morning. She was buzzing around, seeing patients. She was her typical, bubbly, warm, outgoing self.
Yeah, and that's the way everyone describes her all the time. It's like she never had a bad day.
She's always turned on all the way to 11.
Yeah, she's always turned all
Yes.
the way up. and just makes you feel comfortable, happy, and it doesn't surprise me that their practice would thrive with someone like Mary at the helm.
I feel like I need to be more like Mary.
I
I wish I could be more like that, don't you?
He just be like, "Oh, well, so your back hurts. What do you want me to do about it?"
Just
I
all
mean,
all of our fucking backs hurt. What do you want me to do
can you
about
leave me
it?
alone? I'm working on a podcast.
Exactly. I guess that's why I'm not a chiropractor. No, I'm just saying, wouldn't it be fun to have people describe you in that way?
Yeah,
You're just always so pleasant instead of that Dylan's an asshole.
that would be
Dylan's
fun
creepy.
at times. But
Yeah.
I certainly don't know that creep. See, no, don't call me creepy.
I didn't call you that. Someone else did.
But
Caitlin,
yeah,
Caitlin Conley, or Katie, as she was called, was also at the office. She was the receptionist. Mary and Bill had utilized their son Adam as a receptionist for a period, but when he decided like he wanted to go back to school full time, Adam suggested his girlfriend Katie fill in. In 2012, Katie started with the practice part time, but by 2013, she was working there full time. And Katie, who had earned a business degree at SUNY Polytechnic, was all, you know, in. Like, she was really excited about this job. They described her as an excellent employee, absolutely professional, very competent. She handled any challenges that came in the office seemingly with ease. And they were really impressed with her because she's a young person, you know, just out of college kind of thing. She's in college actually while she's working for them. So she's like in her early 20s, but she's just like on fire. She's on top of it. They don't have any complaints about Katie.
yeah.
Mary was fine that morning while she was working. And during the lunch hour, Mary, who normally would make herself one of those Shake Lee shakes, or she would eat one of the Shake Lee protein bars, decided instead she was going to make a trip to Utica to visit her 93-year-old mother, who had just moved in with Mary's sister Sally. Mary wanted to drop by and make sure that Grammy had made the move okay and everything was going well, and make sure that her mother, you know, basically had everything that she needed. So, good daughter. And it sounds like, you know, like I said before, Mary came from a family of like 5 sisters. It sounds like she was pretty close to most of her sisters, and she was close with her mother. So that's, you know, just something else about Mary. Sometime between 1 and 1:30, Mary returned to the office from her lunch break. And as the afternoon progressed, Dylan, something just wasn't right. Patients noted that Mary was not her usual self. By 4:30, she had full-blown nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. She even phoned home to tell Bill she wasn't feeling well. When she made it there at 6:30, Mary immediately headed to the bathroom where she spent most of her evening. For 2 solid hours, Mary was vomiting, and her condition didn't seem to be improving. Bill was really concerned. After all, his wife was like never sick. She was the picture of health. She had an excellent immune system, but she seemed really ill.
Yeah, so I guess she probably thought she had like a stomach bug or something, right? You're puking, you're pooping, your stomach's just tore slap up, as they say around here, and so yeah, that's just very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Once you reach that point.
Yeah, it's like when those 3 Taco Supremes hit from Taco Bell, and you just can't do it.
Let alone if it because a lot of times when you do end up in this state, it gets a little better after a minute. You know, your body calms down. But in Mary's case, it doesn't seem to be getting any better.
No, when bedtime rolled around at 9:30, Dylan, Mary told Bill to go on upstairs to their bedroom. She wanted to sleep on the couch so she could easily access the bathroom if needed, and she didn't need to keep Bill up all night. He was working Tuesday. And that makes total sense to me. I mean, there have been times when I've had like a really bad chest cold or something and I'm coughing my head off, and I've offered, hey, why don't I just sleep on the couch? I don't want to keep you up all night, you know, because I'm sick and I know you got to work. So it just seems like she was kind of trying to be considerate of Bill while also taking care of herself. So again, this just shows what kind of like person Mary was, right? She's like super thoughtful, doesn't want to disrupt Bill's sleep. Well, Bill arose around 6:30 a.m., and when he finds Mary sleeping on the couch in a very similar condition, he phones his daughter Liana, who lives on Long Island. She's a medical doctor. Liana advises her mother to, you know, take plenty of fluids, drink plenty of fluids. It sounds like a stomach virus. But then Liana suggests that Mary go to the emergency room. A few months earlier, Their son Adam had similar symptoms. He was very sick for a while with some identified illness. Bill takes Mary to the emergency room at St. Luke's Hospital around 9:30 in the morning, where she's given fluids and doctors run tests. But by now, Mary is struggling to breathe. The tests reveal it's no stomach bug or flu. Nobody knew what was wrong with Mary, but her condition was stable. The doctors informed Bill that Mary would probably need to stay overnight because obviously they need to run more tests, and Mary encouraged Bill to go home. She was going to be fine. So he went ahead and returned to their home that evening. Not going to sleep in the hospital with her.
Well, I mean, it's just terribly uncomfortable, and he probably just thought she would be monitored and they're caring for her, and maybe she could get some rest, and he could leave her, because just as uncomfortable as it is for the person in the that's in the hospital,
Like the
patient, yeah, that person. It's also you make them uncomfortable being in their room. It's only designed for them. And so, yeah, Bill's just getting out of the way so maybe she can get some rest.
Well, and I think this is common. I mean, if you're there for something that you think is kind of minor, right? I mean, you're sick, but it's not anything major. I don't need you to spend the night here. Like, just go on home, right?
Yeah.
Well, Mary had previously moved their landline phone downstairs because of a relative who had mental illness that had been calling them at like odd hours and kind of keeping them up all night. They also had been charging their cell phones in another room for the same reason. So Bill didn't get any phone calls from the hospital through the night. At 5:30 a.m. on July 22nd, Bill hears a loud banging on the front door. Startled, he makes his way downstairs to find 2 state troopers at the door. They inform him that he needs to get to the hospital. They've been trying to reach him. Bill rushes to the hospital to learn that Mary has taken a turn for the worst overnight.
Oh, my God. How scary would that be?
She'd been moved to the intensive care unit. During the night, Mary had taken a nasty spill in the room and suffered a cardiac arrest. But doctors had no explanation about Mary's condition or why it had worsened. Bill again phoned his daughter Liana. Adam was at her house visiting for the summer. So Liana and Adam are like, this is not good. Like, Adam actually, when he learned his mother was sick, got in the car and started driving from Long Island back home, a 6-hour drive. And Liana's like, I'm on my way. Actually, I think she might have been on her way, like, as Bill's calling her to say, like, your mom's not getting any better. So Adam had planned to spend the remaining bit of summer in Long Island so he could visit his sister, see his nieces and nephews, and to avoid Katie. Now, the couple had a bad breakup in the fall of 2014, and since then, Katie had been sort of baiting Adam for another shot. He wanted to make it as clear as possible the relationship was over.
Yeah, but Katie wasn't taking no for an answer, it seems.
Liana kept in contact with Katie the entire time Mary was in the hospital, as Katie had an important role at the office, but she'd also become like extended family to the Yoders. She and Adam went to game nights at his parents' house several times a month. Katie had visited Liana's home on Long Island with Adam. Tamarin, who lived in Cooperstown, New York, was also informed of her mother's condition as well. Liana and Adam made their way to the hospital, and Adam sent Katie a text saying, quote, "You don't owe me anything, but I need you."
Oh, wow.
Which is exactly the kind of text that someone like Katie wants to get.
Baby.
Don't you think?
I need you right now.
Well, fuck you. I'm sorry.
No, that's what Adam's saying to Katie.
I'm recording a podcast.
I need your help.
He's like singing like Lady Antebellum song. I need you now.
You're the only one that can understand me right now.
So over the course of the 22nd of July, Mary went into cardiac arrest 7 times, Dylan.
Oh my gosh.
Throughout the day, she died 6 times, having to be revived each time. After the 7th heart attack, the doctors informed Bill that Mary was brain dead. At 2:54 p.m., Mary Yoder was pronounced dead. Nobody could tell the family what happened. It was a surreal turn of events. Mary had gone from treating 30 patients to falling ill and then passing away.
Yeah, that's just, here you have this healthy woman who is into, health and conscious about her well-being and very good shape, and just out of nowhere goes downhill this fast. It's a mystery.
An autopsy was ordered. However, it would take a few months to determine what had caused Mary's untimely death. Leanna and the doctors speculated that Mary might have died from ascending, I'm going to butcher this, cholangitis. It's a condition where an infection can travel from the small bowel up to the liver and the bile duct around the gallbladder. It can be deadly. It was a very practical theory. Mary was female, over 50, had hypertension and low blood pressure, multi-organ failure, mental status changes, jaundice, fever, pain, and she'd had acute renal failure according to the hospital reports.
So her kidneys shut down.
Her kidneys shut down.
So this infection, that's very interesting. I've never heard of that before. So basically it sounds like it travels up to your gallbladder and then gets pushed out to the rest of your body.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds bad.
In the days following Mary's death, Bill admitted he was not functioning normally. Having his family around was important, a blessing. On July 25th, he and Mary had plans to visit Leanna for their granddaughter's 2nd birthday. Now it was a day the Yoder family planned to celebrate Mary's life. Though they had no body, Mary wanted cremation. They used the opportunity to remember what a marvelous woman she had been. The 3 kids took up most of the planning, and Katie volunteered to help. It wasn't really a wake or a funeral. They wanted it to be a celebration, which I think is wonderful.
Well, yeah, I agree. I agree with that. You should remember the good times, laugh and think about the jokes I told you or all the incredible things I did for you or just how such an amazing person that I was,
Yeah.
right? So I really think this celebration of life that needs to happen when I pass away, which will be hundreds of years from now because I piss excellence. But I think that everyone should lean into it.
Okay.
No crying. But you know what? If you thought I was an asshole, you get up there and you tell everybody what a dick I was.
I will.
Okay.
I'll be like, I love that man, but he was one son of a bitch.
Yes, just like that. No
He was a
sugarcoating.
dirty, drunk bastard.
Oh, God. Don't tell them about the time I'm pissing your shoes in the closet.
Well, sounds like you just did.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, Dylan, speaking of celebrations of life, a few years ago when I was working in the news realm, there was a woman in the community where I was working, and she was very well known, wonderful humanitarian, just philanthropist, always volunteering her time. You know, she's really had a life of dedication to public service and community service. Just a really nice, wonderful woman. She got cancer and it was terminal, so she knew it was just a matter of time. But before she passed away, she wanted her friends to basically host a wake for her. And it was like this celebration of life. And so she basically got to attend her own funeral.
Yeah.
And anybody who wanted could get up and speak, make a little speech about her. I mean, it was just like a really beautiful, moving experience. And I thought it was awesome. And I thought, how cool, because she got to hear everyone's thoughts about her and the kind of person she was. And she got to really have that outpouring of love before she went on to the next journey.
I think that's a great idea.
I thought it was beautiful. So I love that the Yoders have also planned this celebration because your life should be celebrated, right? So Mary, the wonderful gardener, had full blooms in the backyard, and they decided it was a great place to have the gathering. Bill couldn't handle the friends and family, though. He had to go upstairs during the celebration, excuse himself, because he was just devastated. All the plans he had made with his wife were gone, without warning. 200 people showed up to mourn Mary. They were crying, confused. Mary was friends with just about everybody. Some attendees seemed to kind of be looking at Bill with raised eyebrows because Mary was the picture of health and good living. So, Dylan, rumors began to swirl.
As they always do.
No one was really outwardly accusing Bill of anything, but it was such strange circumstances, and we've learned that the husband is always worth taking a good look at. A few friends who had known the Yoders well just couldn't see it. They said Mary did everything, and that Bill depended on her for everything.
So really, what's his motive to murder her? because he needs her in his life.
Exactly. I
Literally.
mean, they said Bill, like the way they described him was that he was like essentially almost like a helpless adult. Like his wife had to do everything for him, you know? And that's a very familiar. I understand.
Oh, you must
It's,
have a friend who has a spouse like that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I'm married to you,
Oh,
and you're kind of like that.
no.
It's so cute. It's like having a big, giant 300-pound toddler running around.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not 300 pounds.
290,
No.
280.
Let's just say less than 300 pounds. Damn, man. That's uncouth.
Okay.
Can't ask a fat guy's weight.
Look, I'm guesstimating. Okay.
Damn, yeah, my 600-pound husband. Geez, let me strike a deal with TLC. What the fuck?
Do you think we could get a deal with TLC?
No, I don't know, but like, I don't know. We'll call it half and half because we ain't no 600-pound life, but we ain't no 100-pound life either.
Maybe together it could be our 600-pound life.
Yeah,
'Cause
tag.
I've gained a lot of weight over the last 2 years.
Oh, watch these two tag team life.
A few friends who knew the Yoders, though, they just couldn't see it. Again, Mary did everything. Bill depended on her for everything. And, get this, Dylan, no life insurance payout, so there was no financial gain.
So they do the typical searches. They can find no life insurance policy on Mary.
No, and the couple was in debt, and there was not like he was going to get some large chunk of money.
So, minus the...
If anything, having Mary gone was an inconvenience because then they didn't have the money from the practice rolling in.
Well, yeah, that's
Right?
his partner in the practice, so that could cripple the practice.
And in some ways, she's become like the breadwinner because she's working and doing the bulk of the workload.
And it sounds like, much like some other men, that she helped him get through his daily life. Mary helped him.
Probably told him where his socks were,
and his keys,
where he left his keys.
and she always turned to her for help, and she obviously gave him help because they loved each other. But yeah, so I don't see the motive, and I don't see what he gained from her passing away. He lost.
Liana suggested that her father reach out to Kathleen, Mary's sister, who was a widow. She told him, Dad, you're not alone. We have a large family and a big group of friends who care. So perhaps he could lean on Kathleen. He and Mary had reconnected with her since she lost her husband, and she lived close to the Yoder household. Seeing how upset Bill had been at the wake, Kathleen penned a letter the following day expressing her feelings of grief that she remembered so well. A few days later, he met Kathleen so they could talk. They only chatted about an hour because she was heading out of town, but the conversation felt good for both of them. Bill, Adam, Liana, and Katie headed to Long Island to spend some time away. Bill just couldn't handle being home alone. Adam wanted to clear his head, but he did invite Katie for old time's sake, but he let her know up front, like, this is strictly platonic. This is strictly platonic. We're going to go visit my sister. My nieces and nephews, like, they love you. You can come. We're going to take this little break. You're probably upset dealing with your own grief over my mom's death. Let's go and get out of town and do this thing.
Yeah, she worked closely with his mom and had known the family for some time. But I still, I kind of understand what Adam's saying there. But, given the circumstances of their breakup and the, kind of Katie wanting it to be, back on again, Adam obviously not, and making that clear, this is probably not a good idea.
We're going to get into more of Adam and Katie's relationship here in a few minutes, so keep that in mind and stick with me here. Dr. Clark, the medical examiner who conducted Mary's autopsy, had performed over 1,000 autopsies when he worked on Mary Yoder. He noted the most striking abnormality was the color of Mary's organs, particularly her intestinal tract, which appeared to be a mottled red, green, and purple. It was very bizarre. Her heart was also the same odd color.
Wow.
They did this exhaustive, toxicology screening. When the results came in, Mary's tissues and organs had been under attack, which is a perceived sign of poisoning.
Yeah, because originally when the first tox screens came through, which I'm always amazed it takes months to get this stuff back, but of course I don't understand science. But
you don't understand science?
Well, I mean, I guess you have to send the samples in, and they have to. I don't know why we don't have a faster turnaround on some of this stuff, but I guess it goes back to logistics. But anyway, it was clean. All the regular stuff, all the normal things they check for, alcohol, drugs, some of the more common stuff you may ingest accidentally. It's all clean and looks good. So, I mean, I'm sure that threw the doctors and medical examiner for like a loop, right? But then it's obvious when they do the full-on autopsy, they see this discoloration, very strange. This man's done 1,000. I'm going to assume that's a lot of autopsies.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very
Very seasoned
professional.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure this would stand out.
The manner of death was colchicine poisoning or colchicine toxicity. Colchicine is a highly dangerous drug used in gout medications. It contains anti-inflammatory properties. It's derived from the plant autumn crocus, but it can be deadly in high doses. Mary didn't have gout, and there was no reason why she would be taking this drug or even have access to it. The toxin is quickly absorbed into the body, and death is normally the outcome. As it is absorbed, major organs begin shutting down. It also causes repeated cardiac arrest.
Well, yeah, what it does is it stops cell division. And so I did not know this. Some cells in your body don't need to divide, like your skin and nerve cells never divide. You have so many, and if they get damaged, they are not replaced. But many of your organs and your intestines and things like that do divide and kind of replenish themselves. So once cell division is stopped, this is why you see this massive all of her organs shutting down. Very painful. So the linings in her GI tract that transfer moisture can't replenish themselves. Therefore, you end up with the vomiting and diarrhea. And it's just a very, very painful way to, I can only imagine the pain and how scared Mary was at the end of her life.
This is a horrific way to die.
Now, see, another interesting thing about colchicine is it has a narrow therapeutic index. What that means is the amount that is therapeutic and helps in the case of gout, which is the time it actually helps, is very close to the amount that's in the danger zone. So this is something that should be administered by a doctor and very closely monitored.
And if you're not familiar with what gout is, it is a form of arthritis. You get pain and inflammation occur when too much uric acid crystallizes and deposits in the joints. You get severe pain, redness, tenderness in the joints. A lot of folks get gout in their feet, which I think that's the only place that you can get gout, but
it attacks your big toe joint for some reason.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but the folks I know who have had gout say it is horrible. That is super painful. You can barely walk. You can't put your your foot in a shoe.
Now, what kills me is if you get gout, first thing they're going to add is diet. Oftentimes, it affects this uric acid buildup.
Uric acid comes from eating meat, red meat, and drinking a lot of beer.
See, so this right here, this is where it gets off in the weeds for me, okay? Because I was looking into this a little bit, and I'm like, okay, so obviously a woman discovered this treatment for gout or this supposed cause for gout because she wants to take every little thing away from that man that makes him happy to make his big toe feel better.
What, the meat and the beer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And fatty foods and
you know what?
all
the
the stuff
fuck.
that tastes
Saw
good.
your foot off. Like in the movie Saw. Okay? I'll give you a saw. You just go ahead. Just get rid of the thing.
Also, it'd be like jokes on him.
Then you can have all the meat and beer you want.
Jokes on Jigsaw because I have gout and I want to cut this foot off. Yeah. And you just cut it right off and leave.
Yeah, you son of a bitch.
Screw you, man.
Fuck you, Jigsaw. I'm
all
scared of you.
Doped up on colchicine.
I think it's colchicine.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
No, but So yeah, basically that's why her entire body shut down. And you take this in very small doses, closely monitored by the doctor. So here you have Mary, no issues with gout, no reason to have this substance in her body.
No reason at all. You know, Dylan, when I was doing research on this case and was reading about just the horrific, painful way in which Mary died, I mean, it brought tears to my eyes. I can't imagine someone suffering this much?
Well, I just reading about an overdose of this medication, it made me instantly think of what Mary went through, and it's very disturbing and it's not good. And poisoning, period, is a very evil
I think
thing.
it's a very evil
We went over this before. When you
method.
put this substance in someone's food, water, whatever, and watch them or know they're ingesting it, and then you just wait for the symptoms to arise. I mean, that's a whole nother level of evil in
Yeah,
my
I feel
book.
like you're a true psychopath if you
Yes.
can poison someone and like watch them go through a painful death.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take a gun, it's quick, it's scary too, but yeah, just poisoning is a whole nother category for me.
Mary Yoder's death was ruled homicide by the medical examiner's office. However, was not officially being investigated until Sharon Mills, Mary's sister, contacted law enforcement on October 15th of 2015. She presented several theories about how Mary ingested the toxin, along with mentioning those she felt could have been involved. Sharon told police if Bill was the killer, he'd never get caught because she believed he was brilliant.
Oh,
The Oneida County Sheriff's Office decided to investigate the death. They would feel better knowing what had caused Mary's death. Was it brought on by like a water supply issue or something to do with the food she had eaten? Had Mary intentionally been poisoned? If it was nothing more than an accidental death, then at least law enforcement felt they could sleep well knowing they had tried.
well, yeah, and also they may think, what if someone else is exposed to this that's close to Mary, if it's an environmental thing or something like that.
Exactly. So this is in October. The sheriff's office sent out preservation letters to Verizon so that they would save records from the couple's cell phone accounts. As far as detectives could tell, there wasn't much of a motive. I mean, they knew Bill wasn't getting some big financial payout from this, right?
So they can't find any known enemies of Mary's. Bill doesn't look good for it because there's really no gain. It's devastated his life, her dying. Her son seemed, and his sisters, her daughters, all seem to be caring. They all poured in from, out of town very fast, worried about their mom. So yeah, I guess you would be stumped at this point.
Well, it was on November 23rd of 2015 that the Oneida County Sheriff's Office, along with the medical examiner's office, received anonymous letters regarding Mary Yoder's death. The person who had written the mysterious letter knew her death was related to the colchicine poisoning. A shocking accusation came next. The person responsible for Mary's death was none other than her son, Adam.
Wow.
Based on information written in this anonymous letter, law enforcement could search a specific area of his Jeep where they would find a bottle of colchicine and a receipt. The writer expressed how they thought it was odd that Adam had driven back from Long Island early in the morning on the day of his mother's death.
Okay, I'm not seeing why that would be odd. Of course he would be driving back.
Well, almost like suggesting that he was driving back to cover his tracks and to try to re-poison her at the hospital.
Oh, I see. Oh, so he was already heading back when he was told you need to come back. He was already on his way kind of thing.
Well, I think that this letter writer was trying to suggest that Adam was involved and that he was coming back to cover his tracks.
Okay.
If there was poison involved, he needed to make sure they didn't know, they weren't on to him and possibly maybe give her another dose at the hospital.
Okay.
Based on this information, police asked if they could search Adam's Jeep. Now, he consented to the search, and he was bowled over when they found a small bottle and a receipt which showed when and where it was purchased underneath the passenger seat of his Jeep.
That seems like a lot. That seems... So yeah, he's being at this point he's being fully cooperative with investigators.
Yeah.
He wants to know what, at least he's acting like he wants to know what happened to his mom, and he'll do anything I can to help. I don't understand why you would want to look in my car, but fine, go ahead. Even after consulting a lawyer, he consented to search because the lawyer said, well, if you weren't involved, you had nothing to do with it. Of course, my advice would be let him search your vehicle.
Thanks for jumping ahead, Dylan.
Damn it.
A Gmail account was on the receipt belonging to a Mr. Adam Yoder 1990 at gmail.com. The writer also said that being so close to Adam, they felt he was, quote, capable of repeating this type of act to suggest that he would murder again. Most of the transactions for the colchicine was purchased online, but when law enforcement called the seller said they did speak twice to a buyer on the phone and said she had a, quote, soft young female voice.
Ooh.
The purchase for a gram of the drug was billed and shipped to the Yoder's office in care of Adam Yoder. Adam was considered a person of interest. Due to the letter and the discovery of the colchicine, Adam was asked to speak with law enforcement, obviously. So by now, Bill was also becoming a person of interest due to the fact that he was Mary's spouse, and some were suspicious over his budding relationship with Mary's sister, Kathleen Richmond.
Whoa, Bill, hold up now.
Some theorized that Bill didn't want to go through with a divorce, so he decided to murder his wife. Others suggested that Bill's relationship with Kathleen had gone on before Mary's death. One of Kathleen's neighbors stated that she had seen Bill and Kathleen lip-locked on Kathleen's porch weeks before Mary's death.
Oh, my gosh.
The IP address for that email address, which Adam said he had never registered for and didn't use, was traced back to the chiropractic clinic. I'll get that out.
So it's traced back to a computer in the clinic.
Yes. The toxin had been ordered in Adam's name and paid for online. But it all seemed too neat. Law enforcement continued investigating the case. The address was created and used on Katie's work computer at the office.
Wow. Okay, and we also have the supplier of the colchicine saying that she had a quiet voice. Oh, my God.
Well, here's the thing. Katie is going to argue that that work computer was not only used by her, but that Adam had access to it and had used it when he was employed there.
Well, and that's true. That's a good point on Katie's part. Adam is familiar with what goes on there at work. He's done that very job. He would likely still know how to get in the computer. So I think that's a good point on Katie's part.
But guess what, Dylan?
What?
This information had also been accessed on Katie's cell phone. So the evidence is piling up.
Oh, well, Adam also knows how to get my cell phone stuff.
We're going to talk about all that.
Okay.
So Bill and Adam collected items from the clinic, such as Mary's protein shakes, to turn over to the medical examiner, but nothing seemed to carry the toxin. When Bill asked Katie about Mary's last day at work, wondering if maybe she'd eaten something unusual, like a patient had brought in some item, because sometimes, patients would come in and be like, I baked you guys some bread or some muffins or, that kind of thing, offered up something. But Katie was like, nope, everything was normal. No one brought in any food. I didn't see her eat anything. Katie told him that Mary had gone to Grammy's house during lunch, to visit her mother, then had a shakely shake and some vitamins when she returned. Katie said she hadn't been aware there was a toxin, but that Mary seemed to ingest nothing out of the ordinary that day that she had seen. It seemed business as usual.
As far as she could tell, everything was normal. Nothing weird.
Right. Detectives needed to figure out if Adam was the kind of person who would kill his mother. The detectives usually start with family members farthest away from the investigation. Liana was all the way down in Long Island. She may not know the ins and outs of everyday life, as far as her parents are concerned, but she could provide some insight into family dynamics. Liana explained that she was the mother of 4 kids. Her husband was the head of anesthesiology at their local hospital. She was a doctor as well, but Liana was on a sabbatical in order to stay home with her kids at the moment. Now, after meeting with Liana, detectives drove to Cooperstown to talk to Tammy, or Tamarin, they call her Tammy. She hadn't been in much contact with her family, but was concerned. Tammy couldn't really offer up much information on the family's day-to-day interactions. She was just kind of out of the loop, so to speak. She loved her parents and talked to them here and there, but...
Well, she lives out of town.
She lives kind of away, and she's doing her own thing, and, I think that happens. You grow up, you have your own family, you do your own thing.
It's true.
Adam had been in Long Island at the time his mother ingested the toxin, and he'd been there for like a whole week before. He had gone down July 15th, and this all happened on the 22nd. So he'd already been down there for 7 days.
So, and this is 6-7 hours away, or 5-7 hours away from where they live.
Easy Pass records were subpoenaed. The Easy Pass, that's like the toll booth, getting through those tolls and shit.
That's how they track you.
Well, he had no way. They said he had no way of driving that 6 hours to poison his mother when he'd been in town or, out of town for a whole week. There was no record of him coming back.
Right.
And it didn't seem possible to police. Adam told officers he had never even heard of this drug. He didn't know anything about its use and didn't know his mother. He didn't even know, that his mother didn't have gout. Like, when they're like, this is to cure gout, he's like, I didn't know she didn't have it.
He didn't. Right.
He's like, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, and this is a very odd, specific medicine, that's for one particular use and very dangerous. So, yeah, I think I didn't know about it. I mean, I think a lot of people would be like, what? I've never heard of this.
Well, detectives gathered that the letter writer had not known that Adam was out of town for as long as he was.
Okay.
He said as soon as he heard his mother was in the hospital, he drove all night to be there, arriving at 6 a.m. Based on the letter's information and sitting down with Adam, detectives developed a new theory. Someone was trying to frame Adam Yoder for his mother's death. When detectives told him this, Adam was beyond surprised.
Well, I mean, I would, if I was an investigator and I found that bottle with the receipt and all that in his car, just in the floorboard, I would be like, this is weird.
Well, there's dumb criminals, and then there's
there's dumb criminals, but
that's too dumb to even be possible. I can't even believe that something's real. You so stupid. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like, who ties your shoes in the morning? Who's gonna just throw it down in the seat, like basically on the passenger seat next to
and
us?
leave it there for months.
And leave it there for months after you've used this thing allegedly to kill someone, your own mother. I mean, come on. All you got to do is toss it out the damn window. Driving down the road on the interstate, it'd never be found again.
They showed him the letter, not entirely, but portions of this anonymous letter. Adam turned pale white, asking, how could this happen? He then told police, I'm an open book, and handed over his iPhone right there on the spot. They didn't have to ask. He's like, you can look through everything I own. I had nothing to do with this. Though the toxin had been delivered to the clinic in Adam's name, Katie Conley had to sign for it. In the note apps on Katie's iPhone, 11 days later, after this drug was delivered in February, she created a new note called Here for This. It had a lot of strange small notes, but included a line that was 0.9 kg, 180 pound, 81.6 kg. Taking the note and paring it down to basically what cops felt it translated to was that the author of the note was trying to calculate the exact amount of colchicine needed to kill a 180-pound person.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like.
All the other words...
This was in her notes on her iPhone?
Yes. All the other words seem to be included to, confuse the true purpose of this note.
Okay.
Because it was just several lines.
Okay.
Like, buy eggs. Then you got these weird numbers.
Buy eggs.
And then, some other, a quote, some other weird stuff.
How much colchicine to kill an adult woman.
Yeah.
Bread. Milk. Okay.
Let's discuss Adam and Katie before we go any further in our case. Now, the pair met back in 2011 at Katie's high school graduation party. Adam was 4 years older than her. So at the time they met, she's 18, he's 22. He graduated from high school in 2007, and Adam had tried college but never found it to be a fit and ended up dropping out of 2 different colleges. Just couldn't really find his place in the world. But people said, Adam was really smart, just one of those guys that it's like he just kind of didn't really have a whole lot of direction, didn't really know what he wanted to do, was interested in lots of different stuff. Katie Conley came from a very prominent family in her town. Her father was a former Army major. She was one of 7 daughters. Those who knew the family said they were a devoted bunch. They were raised with morals and values. Katie was really smart. She was friendly and had a passion for tennis. She had played tennis like all through high school. She was really athletic. In high school, she had earned the nickname Crazy Katie because she keyed an ex-boyfriend's car.
That'll do it.
So that's something to keep in mind.
There goes old Crazy Katie.
And she ended up attending SUNY Polytechnic, where she studied business and maintained a 4.0 GPA. So she's like really smart.
So she's smart, but could be obsessive.
And she's like a doer, very motivated. In a lot of ways, Katie and Mary remind me of each other, and Bill and Adam seem very similar.
Oh, I could see that.
Right? So
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting. You know, they sometimes say you end up with a partner who like reminds you of one of your parents. And I kind of feel like Adam ended up with a girl that was very similar to his mother. Like real motivated, hardworking.
Smart.
Yeah. Adam was like I said, he was very smart, Dylan. He was fluent in Chinese.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's not easy language to learn.
He speaking the Mandarin?
He was very, computer savvy. He was great with science and math. But again, he just, he tinkered with graphic design. Like, he tried a bunch of different things, but just couldn't quite figure out what he wanted to do. Just could not decide on a career. He was intelligent. He considered math, computer science. But like I said, nothing seemed to work for him. This is just a little blurb, like an example of Adam. They said when he found something he liked or enjoyed doing, that he was like the best at it. But it was like hard to get him to focus on like something, but when he found something that grabbed his interest, he like really went with it. Like growing up, Adam had been a very talented kid. He was just this guy who kind of marched to the beat of his own drum. He decided when he was in primary school that he wanted to take dance classes, and his parents were just kind of like, what? Like, this is strange. They didn't have dancers in the, it was just kind of out of the ordinary, but they allowed him to do it. And that led to him performing a recital in Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace.
Wow.
And like Mary was super proud of him. But he was that kind of kid. Like when he set his mind to doing something, he was great at it. And he was the kind of kid that kind of did the unexpected or maybe stuff that wasn't the norm, like taking dance classes, but then he's awesome at it.
My son was a bit like that. He would hyper focus on something that did pique his interest, and he'd get real good at it. And I'd be like, oh, this is really cool. And then he would just move on. And he would all of a sudden be done with it. And he's like, yeah, I'm over that.
Like when we met, he was an aspiring SoundCloud rapper.
Well, I mean, this is long. No, well, I was just like,
but honestly, I thought he had some good beats still. And I didn't think
he had some decent beats.
I didn't think he was terrible.
But what sticks out in my mind is a damn trumpet I paid for like 4 fucking years. I was like, oh, wow, we don't play the trumpet anymore? Wow, you was first chair, bud. What happened to that? Because we even went out and upgraded trumpets. But now we don't do the trumpet.
So you're saying you're mad your son's not like Dizzy Gillespie or something?
Well, I'm just mad that he didn't at least keep the trumpet and pull it out and press his own kids with it later because of all the money I put in that damn trumpet.
Or that you couldn't force your 2 younger kids to play trumpet?
Oh, you can do band. Guess what instrument you're playing?
As long as you play the trumpet.
You're playing the damn trumpet.
You all 3 are playing the damn trumpet.
The same
We're
trumpet.
having a trumpet concert right here. Y'all 3 gonna have to share this trumpet.
I'll have you know that trumpet will be paid off next month, and you're gonna play that goddamn concert.
I don't even know how much is a trumpet.
Oh my God! I mean, dude, they quickly get up $1,000, $1,500 and stuff for any musical instrument. It's ridiculous, of course. And then you don't.
Didn't you say you bought your daughter some insane flute that costs like an arm and a leg, and then she couldn't play it?
Well, then, and you're like, you don't know if they're into it or if they're going to stick with it. So then of course, you finance it instead of just outright buy one. And then you just keeps on and on. Yeah, my daughter was like, no, I don't want to play trumpet, Dad. I was totally like, you should play trumpet. I think you'll be great at it. And she's like, I want to do the flute. And I was like, all right, we'll find you. I want an open hole flute. I was like, I don't even know what that means, but we'll get you an open hole flute. I ended up buying like this competition, like collegiate, basically a professional flute, and it's like only someone who knows is good at the flute could operate this flute. And it's just, I mean, it was sterling, pure silver flute and all this stuff, and she couldn't even play it because it was way too complicated. Why didn't you just get her
like one of those dollar recorders from the Dollar Tree?
Like hot cross
she could play
buns.
When the Saints Go Marching In.
Hot
yeah,
cross
exactly. And then you could be like, look,
buns.
honey, you're a beautiful flute player.
Okay.
I'm just really glad that my kids are underachievers and they're not really interested in extracurricular activities because then that means I don't have to spend the money and I don't have to go to like events.
Gosh, I know, right?
I'm kind of glad I have lazy
I'm glad
kids
y'all are
sometimes.
lazy.
Yeah.
I don't have to get out there and do the parental politics of youth sports.
Yeah, thank you. Adam and Katie had a toxic relationship, Dylan. Toxic.
Yeah, any little thing I hear about when they were together does not sound good or healthy.
On and off again, the pair had serious turmoil. The breakups were nasty, and sometimes law enforcement had to be called. They sent mean texts back and forth. They would make up, get back together, and repeat the cycle. In 2013, Katie claimed during one of their breakups that she had suffered a miscarriage related to an ectopic pregnancy. She told Adam that he had not been there for her, though when she had gone to the hospital, she'd only called him once in the middle of the night and had not called him again, but then kind of held this over his head for months. Like, you weren't there for me.
Yeah, and see, what's bad about these types of relationships is it takes two to tango. And I think, Adam, that's why, you should just recognize you shouldn't be together for whatever reason it doesn't work. And you guys have to separate and stay separated. Because this back and forth thing or reaching out to them out of the blue, it's just not good for either of you.
In 2014, she claimed Adam had raped her while he was drunk and even filed a police report about it.
I mean, that's next level.
Adam found out Katie had cheated with his gym partner, who was a really good friend, and had broken up with her. The rape claim came after he had told her they would never, ever, ever get back together, like Taylor Swift style.
So she's not above just telling I take a rape allegation serious, always. Err on the side of caution, believe the victim first, and then figure it out later. But so she basically was like, oh, yeah? Well, then remember when you raped me when you was drunk? And he's like, what? She calls the police.
Yeah, well, she ended up dropping charges against him.
Of course she did.
And this was only after he agreed to get back together with her.
See,
police even found on her phone a photo that was dated a week after she had filed those rape charges, where they're sitting together at a restaurant or something, and they said Katie has this big smile on her face, she looks so happy, and that Adam's sitting there the look on his face is sheer terror, or he's really uncomfortable and doesn't want to be in the picture.
So that's the worst thing about these types of couples, besides the unhealthy relationship they have between each other. They soak up municipal resources like no other.
That's true.
The only other people that waste the police time and everything else more than this type of couple is a drug-addicted couple who fights over drugs being gone.
Oh, like the meth couple?
Yeah, the meth couple. But this couple's right below that. This toxic couple who shouldn't be together. You got, fighting, the public disturbances, cops being called, actually filing charges on each other. I mean, it's just insanity.
It totally is. In 2013, Adam had decided to return to school full-time at SUNY Polytechnic. That's when he stopped working full-time for his parents, and Katie had taken over the position. Before their breakup in 2014, this was in the fall of 2014, around the time, I believe she made that rape allegation in November, and they had broken up in October, I believe was the timeline, because he found out sometime of August or September she had slept with his friend.
His good friend?
Yeah.
Well, it's on his friend, too. Some shit.
Right. Well, before their breakup in fall of 2014, Katie offered to loan Adam money to pay off his debts and buy a Jeep. She gave him $22,000.
Damn, Katie's sitting on money like that?
Which Adam thought was a bad idea. It was another way Katie could control him, but she insisted.
Adam, what a mistake. This is a horrible idea.
This was to pay off some student loans he had taken out the first 2 times he had tried school, and he needed a vehicle to be able to commute to college. And Katie was just insistent. She practically threw this money at him. He was like, no, I'll figure something out. She goes to the bank and comes back here, take this.
God.
And, is trying to sell it well, we're in a relationship. We're probably going to get married.
He's
We're going to be
no.
together. So you should let me help you out in this way. Yeah. So after they broke up in the fall of 2014, Katie used money as a way to keep in contact with Adam. By then, he'd moved on for good, even began dating someone else. But every so often, Katie would send a cryptic text or ask to meet up. She also was like stalking Adam and his new girlfriend.
Of course she is.
In April, before Mary died, Katie gave Adam something called alpha brain supplements. She said the tablets helped her study and worked miracles. However, it was soon after Adam started taking the supplements that he became violently ill. Adam was admitted to the hospital with nearly the same symptoms as his mother. He had nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, lethargy, just lethargic, just was very, very sick. It would take him weeks to recover or feel normal again. When he went to the hospital, they actually kept him for a couple of days because he was so very sick.
Wow, that sounds eerily similar to his mother's symptoms before she passed away.
Adam was kind of quiet and private, and he often tended to deal with things on his own. Even though Mary was worried about her son, he kind of pushed her away. So Mary was definitely the kind of mom that would reach out very often. She knew he was struggling with these stressors of school and just trying to figure it all out, plus this relationship with Katie, which they tried to stay out of it, his parents, because Katie did work for them, right? And she was really professional at work. Their relationship didn't seem to interfere with her work. But, his parents are worried about him, but they try not to get too involved. But, his mom will reach out and be like, how are things? What's going on with Katie? And he'd kind of be like, you need to mind your business.
Yeah, and from all accounts, Mary and Katie had a great working relationship.
And we're like friends.
She was like you said, like a part of the family because she'd been around for a while and, celebrated holidays and all that, I'm sure. But yeah, they had no issues that anyone knew about as far as their working relationship and her continuing to work for her even after her and Adam have broken up, quote unquote.
Well, after this illness, Adam resolved to cut off intimacy with Katie altogether. I mean, there had been periods in the past where, they would break up and they might date other people, but then they end up hooking up again.
So not a good idea.
Yeah, it's a really bad idea. You can't be doing those drunken dial ex booty calls.
Well, they'd be kidding around and saying like the crazy girls are great in bed and all this. You know what else the crazy girls do? They in the bushes. Okay? They stab and kill people. Right? So just like Jodi Arias.
So you're just so that's your way of telling me that your ex was really good in bed then?
No.
Because she is a psycho.
She is a psycho. She's such a psycho. It's not possible for a woman to be that good in bed. Okay? That's a case study.
Okay.
That will be like, we'll have to get Hannibal Lecter's help on that. Okay? But no, I'm just saying that is, and you see this time and again in a relation. This is almost kind of, gives me Jodi Arias vibes.
No, it's totally.
Right? So you have Katie, who's obviously got her issues. And if you're with her, you know that she has these issues, these almost like manic
obsession,
the obsession, and it
controlling.
Sounds like she gets what she expects to get what she wants,
and using these very manipulative tactics,
money,
like fear, threats to like. I mean, if you have to like threaten someone into being in a relationship with you or scare them so badly to get them to act right or something, then need to be together.
If you, and we'll move on. If you file rape charges on someone and you're still kicking it with them, like going on dates and stuff, you're a messed up individual. If the rape charges are accurate and real, it's very unhealthy for you to be around your attacker, right? And if they're not real, it's just it's a waste of the police's time, and it also it gives a bad reputation to rape victims, making false claims. I think that's a very, very wrong thing for any man or woman to do, is make false claims on rape, because it's just a horrible thing.
No, it is. Any chance of rekindling a romance was done, but Adam could try to be friends with her, whatever that meant. Most of the time, he just tried to kind of placate her. If she sent him a text, he didn't really offer up any kind of personal information. He tried to keep it as short and simple. Yes, no, he didn't go out of his way to text her. Like, he was trying to create a distance.
He's trying, but someone like Katie, him just even reading, not leaving her on read or wait, but answering in any form or fashion, any contact is good for Katie.
Yeah. So with Katie realizing that their relationship was over, she clung to the loan. "You have to pay me" became a common text from Katie. Like, she would send that text to him pretty regularly. Later, Katie will tell law enforcement that her romantic relationship with Adam ended in September of 2013, but they had reconciled after that. As a matter of fact, they had broken up, like broken up so many different times. Adam couldn't even keep track of the dates when they were on and off. Adam would say from the time he met Katie, she exhibited malignant narcissism and a personality disorder. Initially, Katie had gone to Germany. Now, this is about how they met and what Katie did. And I'm like, I've known people like Katie before.
Uh-oh.
Now, initially, so they meet Katie's graduation party, right? He meets her. He's like, okay, he's interested. She immediately goes to Germany after graduation, like on a trip for some time, like I think a couple months. So he sends her a message like on Facebook, like, "Hey, it was great to meet you. I thought we really hit it off. Like, I'm interested in you. I'd like to take you out sometime." Right? She just doesn't respond. She completely ignores this message. And then, like, some months later, does respond, but she doesn't mention anything that he said in the message. It's, doesn't mention that he likes her, the flirtation. It's not like she's saying, "Yeah, I'd like to go out with you," anything. She's just like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like a real casual thing. So Adam totally thinks she's not interested.
Right.
Right? Well, when they eventually do start dating, she finds out that Adam had slept with another girl in the interim, kind of between the time that he met her and he and Katie are going out.
Yeah.
Because some months had passed.
So basically, when he tried to make contact with her, she didn't answer back, basically. And then she did. So in that period of time, when Adam's like, "Well, I guess that chick's not into me, or we're not going to
like
kick
2-3 months later.
He's seeing other people.
Well, he slept with some girl, right? Like, just hooked up with a girl, had a one-night stand.
Well, yeah.
So when he and Katie get together and she finds out that, he had this one-night stand with this other girl, Katie gets mad and acts like he cheated on her. Like they were together the whole time.
So, yeah,
and
right.
like flips the fuck out. Like, how could you do this to me?
Dude, I mean, there's your signal. Run. I mean, come on. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Adam said, quote, "It was pretty much all downhill from the beginning. I just didn't see it." Story of a lot of our former relationships, Adam.
Katie must have had that ill nana.
After his sickness, well, I mean, she was cute.
She was cute.
After his sickness, Adam thought Katie seemed fixated on it. She was always asking what was wrong, how was he feeling, if doctors learned what had caused it. He even sent her a text in jest saying that if she poisoned him, they couldn't be friends anymore.
Haha.
Katie did not
face
respond.
Emojis. Ooh.
He realized he had taken his second dose of her brain supplements the night before he had gotten sick.
She texts back, is like, "Wow, what did the doctors say?"
Realizing someone close to Adam was clearly trying to frame him for the murder of his mother, detectives began diving deeper into Bill Yoder as a suspect. Detectives wanted to find out when his relationship with Kathleen started. Could that be a motive? The affair? If Bill had the audacity to kill his wife, what would stop him from framing his son?
So Bill has, everyone knows at this point, after Mary's death, he's become close. That's what Bill says, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's become close with Kathleen, Mary's sister, right?
Yeah.
They've both lost a spouse, and they're kind of consoling each other. And this is actually rather common for someone, a family friend or her best friend, or, maybe someone who, you both work closely with. This is not all that uncommon for these people to, after the one person passes away, to become close after that person's death.
One of the really famous situations like that comes to mind is the former Playboy bunny Dorothy Stratton. She was murdered in 81 by her jealous ex-husband, and she had moved on from him and was dating the director Peter Bogdanovich, who recently passed away, R.I.P. The Last Picture Show was a classic. So Peter Bogdanovich and Dorothy Stratton were like a couple, and we're working on a movie together. We're like kind of living together, sort of thing. And Dorothy went to see the ex for a minute, and it was like a murder suicide, whatever. Well, Peter Bogdanovich ended up marrying Dorothy's much younger sister, who was like 12 or 13 at the time Dorothy was murdered. He like paid for her to go to private school, paid for her college education, all that. But when she was grown, like they got together and were married for like 20 years or something.
Mm,
And
that's a little weird.
well, it kind of is, I
I'm just
guess.
saying, man, if you're around somebody when they're a kid, you should never get with them.
But that's
Sorry.
one of those situations where,
But yeah,
you know, someone's murdered. I think they kind of maybe bonded over that. He tried to take care of her whole life because he knew that's what Dorothy would have wanted. And then they end up together and they're married like 20, 30 years.
and that doesn't make that person a bad person because there's some really strong emotions happening, you know, when your wife passes away. And
Well, and of
yeah,
course, you know, it might end up that he would be with Kathleen. That's the closest thing to Mary that there is the sister. Perhaps they look alike. They might have similar personalities. I mean, you know,
It's
it could be
true.
that he's seeing the things he loves about his wife in the sister, right? I mean,
yeah,
I
let's
just
move. I'm trying not to make bad jokes.
okay,
I mean, there's some. She may feel the same, you know. I mean, so I'm just saying.
maybe. You stupid.
Let's just keep moving.
Adam was convinced that his sickness had corresponded with taking those brain supplements that Katie had given him. Now, he handed that bottle over to police, saying that he had taken 2 pills, but when police counted, there were actually 29 in the bottle. So it had had 31 pills because he was like, I took 2 of them. So police thought that was very strange.
Okay,
That a bottle of 30 supplements.
that's 31.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that could be just a misfire in the manufacturing facility, you know, a miscount. But it's also, so what happens then? Do they look at the supplements he hands them?
Well, they're going to test those because, again, he's like, Katie gave me these. I had similar symptoms.
I took a couple of them. I
mean,
felt super sick, got so sick I had to stay over at the hospital and recover for weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would stand out to you enough to, he's kept these. You know, when you just throw those out, like, damn, that didn't agree with my sister body, you know.
Still, 2 of Mary's sisters had no idea who had hurt her because she had no enemies and everyone loved Mary. So they're just kind of going down the list of like relatives, questioning people. Like this investigation is still ongoing. On December the 18th, detectives called Katie to the sheriff's office. She had knowledge of the inner workings of the chiropractic office, and she knew the couple's day-to-day operations. Had Bill been to the office at any time during the day when Mary had gotten sick? Were they a couple that argued? I mean, these were some of the questions they asked. Was there a secret that maybe Katie knew about because she had worked so closely with them? Like, did she know some dirt on the family? By now, they knew the toxin had been shipped to the office. Katie explained the procedure for ordering products at the office. She said Adam had not known, or they had basically told her that Adam didn't know about this email address that was used to order the items. He said that that there was basically a combination of 2 emails that he had used. He did actually have an account that was Mr. Adam Yoder at Gmail, but it didn't have that 1990 at the end. So Katie's telling them that Adam mostly used his college email account and that he did have that Mr. Adam Yoder. Detectives found Katie extremely helpful, honest, positive, and eager to answer questions. She struck law enforcement as innocent. Now, Bill was interviewed at the station house a second time for about 8 hours. He showed up as soon as detectives called him to come down for questioning. He turned over his electronic devices without hesitation. And this was something that law enforcement, they like took note of this because they're like, you know, usually if you've got a suspect and you think that they're guilty, they killed their wife, there's certain behaviors that tip you off. But the fact that he was so cooperative right off the bat, the minute they would call him, he'd be right there. They were like, okay, we think this guy's trying.
Well, yeah, and as soon as they think you're being genuinely cooperative across the board, I mean, how could you? Yeah, that's going to automatically make you think maybe this guy didn't do anything.
Well, Bill felt they were coming after him as a suspect, which was hurtful because, you know, I mean, he had really loved his wife, but he had nothing to hide. He made it clear he wanted to cooperate as much as possible. He also had not deleted any conversations between himself and Kathleen. So if Bill had planned an elaborate murder, you know, from ordering the toxin nearly 10 months earlier, writing and sending anonymous letters, then he would have likely deleted any contact with his lover if that was the motive. Detectives learned the first communication that they had was 10 days after Mary died, which was a huge break in their case. It ruled out the affair as a motive. It was clear from the text that he didn't even know where Kathleen lived, like before Mary died. And they were like, well, this doesn't seem like a behavior from a man who's been carrying on this sordid affair behind his wife's back. I mean, he's having to text like, now which house is yours? Then another break in the case came when investigators learned that it was female DNA under the stamp on one of the letters. A woman had clearly licked the stamp.
Oh, my God.
Now, Katie had said she was the one who placed the stamps on outgoing mail at the office, which was a note investigators had taken down. Now, of course, no possibility was thrown out. Perhaps Bill and Kathleen were working together. The DNA on the stamp led investigators to believe it was a female within the family circle who was involved. They decided to call Katie in again. Now, detectives applied for over 80 subpoenas. They had computer forensics working day and night, and new information was slowly trickling in. Katie was asked to come in once again to give up elimination DNA, which made her hesitant. They wanted her to come give this elimination DNA so they could prove she wasn't the one who licked the stamp or wrote the letter.
Well, yeah. And if you have nothing to hide, though the mention of DNA nowadays gives a lot of people pause, even innocent people. But, yeah, you shouldn't have a problem with that.
She showed up with stationery from the chiropractic office, something that detectives hadn't asked her for, but it kind of piqued their interest. The detective that was kind of in charge of this case said that he found that usually when someone was overly helpful, it was because they had something to hide.
And that's what I started to say earlier. You can be too cooperative when you're trying to asking them, what do you know, trying to figure out everything they know about the various parts of this investigation. And sometimes that can pique their interest.
When computer forensics finally came in, the IP addresses logging into the Mr. Adam Yoder 1990 email were traced back to none other than Katie Conley's house.
Okay.
Yeah. So she had logged in at her house to that email account in October after Mary died. She told law enforcement that she hadn't physically seen Adam since September. She was called in a third time to the station. Now, if she'd been eager to help before, by now she was seeming annoyed to detectives. They wanted to apply some pressure. If Katie hadn't seen Adam since September, then how did he log in on her computer at her house in October?
Oh.
Katie began acting strangely the moment she arrived at the police station. Now, keep in mind, this is the third interview. She appears nervous. She's not sweet and confident like the former interviews. The detectives explained they were looking for a motive of why Adam might kill his mother. Katie began hyperventilating and crying. She kept saying, I'm scared, I'm scared. They told her since they were sharing pertinent information, they had to read the Miranda warning to her. She was asked if she wanted to proceed with questioning or get an attorney. She agreed to continue without legal counsel. When asked why she was so scared, her response was, Adam's really smart.
Oh my gosh, so she's in fear for her life from Adam.
Well, that's what picture she's going to paint. Within a few minutes, Katie admitted that she is the one who wrote the letters. The anonymous letters.
Okay, so the ones directing all the attention to Adam, telling the cops where they can find evidence, damning evidence towards Adam. Okay.
Detectives were curious why she didn't mail a copy to the state police. How did she know it was the sheriff's office looking into Mary's death? So after a long back and forth, she told investigators she just assumed the local law enforcement were investigating. She then explained that Adam admitted on their last meeting in September that he had ordered the toxin and had it mailed to the office. He had hid it under her seat in the Jeep where she was sitting. Now, she claimed that he had ordered this product from an art supply company from the office computer. To be sure, she went home and signed into the email account just to make sure. That's why she'd signed in at her home address.
An art supply company. Interesting.
She said he logged into that account at the office and on her phone. Then Katie said that Adam was trying to connect to her, connect her to this crime, that if anything happened at the office, her hands were all over it. So this was obviously Adam trying to frame her. Now, this struck detectives as an odd statement. They then asked if her DNA or handprints would be on the bottle. When they asked this, Katie changes her story to say that she had seen a bottle of the toxin on the counter at the office and that it had spilled over and she'd cleaned it up. But Katie was referring to a bottle of colocol, not colchicine. There are two different substances, and they're in two very different size bottles. She said she never touched the bottle that was in Adam's Jeep, but detectives found traces of female DNA where it had been handled. Getting Katie's DNA and testing it against the bottle, investigators felt confident it would come back that Katie was the owner of this DNA.
Yeah, so there's really no reason for her to come into contact with this bottle that Adam allegedly got online.
Her phone proved very interesting when they were collecting evidence. Studying the contents of Katie's phone, they discovered she had lied about certain details during the early interviews. There was nothing she needed to lie about, unless she was hiding something. The password for Mr. Adam Yoder 1990 at gmail.com, guess what the password was, Dylan?
Katie did it.
Adam is gay.
Nuh-uh.
Hardly a password that Adam would likely choose for himself.
Well, maybe it's his way of announcing it to the world.
Well, detectives thought it was a strange way of coming out of the closet, right? The email account had been created 10 months before Mary had been killed, back in September of 2014. Now, if that was the case, Adam would have planned his mother's murder way in advance. And from what they had learned about their relationship, a matricide would likely be more of a crime of passion than something he would plan over the course of months.
Yeah, so there's no obvious problems with their relationship. So if something had happened, it'd be kind of heat of the moment type of situation.
That's what they felt.
Okay.
Plus, that's what they had seen in other cases like this. Forensics showed Katie had not logged into the account once or twice to spy on Adam, but she'd actually been checking it all along since its creation back in 2014.
Okay, it's almost like she created it.
Yeah, it's almost like she's created it and it's on her phone and she keeps checking it every day.
Yeah.
Katie then perked up when detectives asked if Adam ordered the toxin as a suicide option. This is when she sort of snaps out of the whole like crying and I'm scared and boo-hoo-hoo. And she's like, Adam was likely planning to kill someone else, and that's probably why he kept the drug in his Jeep rather than discarding it. The detective mentioned FBI studies showing that guys don't usually hang on to murder weapons. And get this, Dylan, Katie replies, quote, guys don't usually poison either.
Ooh.
Now, this was a weird statement. She then said, quote, they say it's a lady's weapon.
Okay, keep talking, Katie.
Odd thing to say under the circumstances, right? Now, this comment changed everything for investigators. Not to mention Katie came into the interview frightened, but seemed energized by the end of it. She became cocky, arrogant after that poison comment. She was like smiling at detectives, almost like smirking at him, like she had some kind of upper hand. Katie had finally admitted to murdering Mary Yoder with that comment. Is what they felt like. And it showed Katie had zero empathy for Mary Yoder or the family. Instead, she seemed to have this grandiose sense of self.
Well, it's her narcissism.
In her notes app, she had also written, quote, I like my men like I like my tea, thrown into the Boston Harbor. She followed that statement up with particularly interesting other like little, notes or doodles. One of them said, quote, interested in the evidence of systematic patterns.
Ooh. Okay.
A suspect's lie is the most important statement if you can prove it's a lie. It shows the criminal trying to cover up portions of their involvement in a crime, right? Katie had talked herself into this corner, and detectives had factual evidence to dispute her. So Katie didn't know this, of course. In investigators' opinions, she was displaying antisocial personality disorder and extreme narcissism. She was displaying a pattern for disregarding right from wrong, persistent lying, arrogance, impulsiveness, a lack of remorse, a fall within a sociopathic spectrum. She didn't demand an attorney. She never left the interviews, even though police told her you can leave at any time, like you're not being held. And she continued trying to convince law enforcement that Bill and Adam were the culprits. She insisted that Adam had logged into the email account remotely at the office because he knew how to do that. Now, it was likely that he could have logged in from her house the same way, right? But forensic proved otherwise. Like, if he had actually done a remote access of any of these computers, these forensic specialists, they catch everything.
Well, yeah, they can see the literal code he used to access his server or this computer and from where, and there's a trail to all of this.
And there was no evidence of this on any of Adam's devices. So if he had accessed anything remotely, there was no trail, like, leading back to Adam, and there was nothing on her computer showing that he had ever accessed any information remotely.
And if he is this computer whiz and he's super smart, now and they can also tell if he's modified things to cover his tracks, if he's deleted event logs or anything like that. So yeah, I'm sure. And if everything just looks perfectly normal and you don't see these gaps in data where he's gotten rid of information, then yeah, there's absolutely no reason for them to believe that Adam is doing any of this remotely.
Now, she first said she had never heard of that cold casino, but then told detectives that Adam asked her once how to order it. So again, from one interview to the next, she's completely changed her story.
Well, and that's what happens when you are possibly lying, and she obviously thinks that she is the smartest person in the room.
Well, she was lying. The more she dug herself into a hole, she would then, like, as far as Adam goes, detectives felt like then she started digging herself into this hole. She tried sort of backpedaling and blaming it on Bill again. Then the lieutenant entered the interview room to tell Katie, "You're a suspect along with Bill and Adam, but we've got to rule you out, and you need to help us rule you out as a suspect." And the lieutenant was like, "You're obstructing. The email account was traced solely back to you, Katie." He asked why she was now trying to distance herself. He wasn't going to give her any out. Like, if the detectives had been kind of like, you know, I guess playing good guy with her, this lieutenant came in like, you know, cracking skulls.
He's a bad cop.
Yeah, he don't give a fuck. He's like, "Look, bitch, I know what you did.
Damn,
I know what y'all did last summer." He offered her a chance to take a CVSA, which is a computer voice stress analysis test, which helps see whether people are being truthful. And most people have ditched the polygraph test because this is supposed to be like 70 times more accurate.
I was going to say that this actually, a lot of people say it's not junk science, and there's repeatable data that you can gather with this. So yeah, this voice stress and analysis machine is a rising star.
So he's like, "Will you take this test?" She's kind of like him-hawing around. "No, I don't know." And then he's like, "Well, why? Because you think you're going to fail it?" And Katie looked at him and said, "I will do well on the test."
Oh, you can test me right now. Ask me a question.
He was convinced Katie had been responsible for poisoning Adam and killing Mary the same way. The lieutenant said, quote, "You had a grudge against Adam for what he did to you." And Katie said, "I have no grudge." And the lieutenant brought up that alleged rape. How angry it must have made her. She didn't bite, saying she wasn't angry about it at all.
Yeah, it was just a rape that didn't happen. So, yeah, I have no feelings on that.
The lieutenant brought up the fact that the texts between Adam and Katie were heated, even contentious at times. So why would Adam put his trust into Katie and admit what he had done? Like, of all people, why would he tell you? You guys have not had a good relationship. He can't trust you.
Yeah, well, yeah, you've made charges against him. You guys fight constantly. You've tried to hurt each other.
Yeah, why would Adam admit to murdering his mother and provide Katie with the details or evidence? From the correspondence, it was obvious that Adam avoided sharing anything personal with Katie. He even seemed scared of her. Every time she tried to bury Adam or point the finger at Adam, the lieutenant would point out how certain facts always came back to Katie, pointing to Katie's iPhone. Law enforcement pointed out that it was directly connected to Katie, not anyone else. She kept saying she's like, "There'll never be enough to connect Adam to this, and he's so smart, and like, he has access to this stuff, and he can change things around, and he's framing me. And she just kept saying there'll never be enough evidence to not, to basically prove my innocence, or to not, so that you won't believe that I did this.
So basically, there'll never be anything that proves Adam did it, but I'm assuring you again that Adam did it.
Yeah. Katie had texts from friends who were sending messages of condolences. So when they're like scanning through her phone, they're seeing these. Because after all, the boss and friend she had in Mary was gone. But instead of showing emotion in these messages, Katie was responding, complaining about the investigation and how they were bugging her. The messages were crass and devoid of emotion. Katie was complaining that she had to give up her precious time to go speak with cops. They had come to her house like 15 times. She even wrote more in that notes app, steering them back to Adam. So after she had like the first series of interviews, like the first and second interview, she had gone in her notes app and wrote questions like, is Adam still connected to my phone? She also pasted stuff in the notes app that was, quote, a warrant cannot be issued on an informant's tip unless the officers state the reasons led them to believe the informant is credible or that the information is reliable on this particular occasion. So she's like quoting law in her notes app.
Which means she's looking into this. She's investigating herself.
It seemed she was doing her best to deflect and impede the investigation. Katie didn't seem to want to offer up any more information or anything that would rule herself out. Instead, she just kept lying. She denied creating the account or setting it up. She had left an electronic trail that led computer forensics directly to Katie. Detectives mentioned someone had tried using that Adam Yoder 1990 email to set up a PayPal account to order that toxin. Katie didn't have anything to say about this. This is where most criminals' downfall is, because people don't realize their phones and electronics leave a trail that you just cannot get rid of.
I think people are becoming more and more aware of it today. But even today, it's like people don't know any of that. But especially some years ago, it wasn't at the, people didn't think of that first.
He asked Katie if she was 100% sure the PayPal account's IP address would not be traced back to her. She said no. I'm being honest. They ordered her to take the stress test to help prove her innocence, and she refused. She wouldn't give them a time and date when she would come back and take the stress test either.
Yeah, because she did not want to take it.
Bill had been totally honest with detectives, even offering up a timeline and all the information about his relationship with Kathleen. He didn't know that they knew about it. So when they start asking him, he's just totally like, yeah, this is what's going on. I'm dating her, and he appears like he doesn't have anything to hide. When they told Bill they were writing a search warrant for the office, he told them they didn't need one. Bill gave them permission to search the office, the computers, anything they needed. He said, I'll even take you right now.
So, yeah, and this is what a widowed husband says because he wants to know what happened to his wife. This is the way an innocent man acts.
Katie agreed in late December to take that voice stress test. She showed up at the station, so this will be like the fourth time she's been at the station. She shows up with her parents, still no lawyer. Her stress levels were off the charts. Like, she's totally lying.
Right.
Per their plan, none of the detectives told Katie, we know you're lying. Instead, they presented her with a warrant saying, we need to search your house, your phones. We're going to confiscate all the devices, everything in your house. She is stunned.
Well, I'm sure.
Because she's thinking she's, off the hook.
Well, she's thinking she feels like she's in control. And this whole time she's been putting off the date for this test, telling them what she will and won't do. And now she's come in to do their little test. And she thinks she can just talk her way out of this more.
In the early part of 2016, the subpoenas that were sent to Google finally came back. In January of 2016, a new email address had been created from the Conley residence, acyoder@gmail.com.
What the hell?
Detectives were also wondering where Katie had gotten large sums of money, like that $22,000 she had given Adam. In January of 2016, so right after she's taken this voice stress test or whatever, She pays cash for like a newer model Honda Accord, one that's like 2 years old. So you know it's going to be costly.
Yeah, that car's still $15,000, $16,000, $17,000.
Guess what? A large bag of cash was found in her bedroom.
What the hell?
Detectives thought Katie was embezzling money from the clinic, and when Bill looked at the books, he agreed. The Yoders were the kind of people who ran the business to help people, not to make money. They rarely poured over the financials. So when Bill finally does stop and take a look at, what his business is
What
doing.
he should be making.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, oh yeah, she's stealing money. Plus, Dylan, I read some reports. Now, I am not 100% sure of these reports, but they were mentioned by some publications and some other true crime authors that Katie also had a secret life where she was selling her used underwear online.
What?
And she had placed ads on various social media networks looking to have threesomes or offering up to have threesomes with people. So some folks believe Katie basically had some side hustles involved in sex work. However, I've not been able to 100% confirm that, but it has been reported by more than one resource. So I'm going to mention that.
Well, I got to say, good for her.
Because it could explain how she had large sums of money.
If you can get someone to pay you for your old underwear, I mean, damn. I think you're a genius.
I don't think anybody's going to buy hers.
Well, I was wondering what the market value might be. We'll consider that later.
The toxin had been paid for with prepaid credit cards, like Visa gift cards. The store where the cards were purchased was directly on the route that Katie took from the office to her house. Both prepaid cards were purchased within a week of each other. Though the CCTV footage of the person buying those cards had long since been deleted, detectives decided to mindfuck Katie. They took some blank DVDs and printed the supermarket's label on them. And during their interview with Katie, they would tell her they had a video of her purchasing the cards. Now, this was a risky move, right? After they're reading her rights, detectives asked her where she had written this letter. Now, this is like the 5th time she's been to the police station for an interview.
Yeah, so if they tell her we have video of you buying these cards and she definitely did not buy the cards, then she's going to call their bluff and she's going to know they're lying, and she's obviously going to think about, well, what else are you lying about?
So they're pressing her, where did you write these anonymous letters? And she said school, but police knew that was a lie. This is when Katie started hyperventilating again. She kept saying, if Adam knows, and then crying, indicating that she was scared of Adam. They pointed out how Katie had said in the original draft of the letter that Adam admitted he had killed his mother when he was drunk. But then her notes app had a memo that said not to say drunk. Because they found a draft on a computer that was like an original. They found notes in the notes app. They found other drafts. So she was writing fiction using her notes app as she went along. Katie said, well, this isn't my letter. She said that wasn't what she had written, but law enforcement knew it was. During their search of the office, and this is what Katie didn't know, is they had found typewriter ribbons, like old school typewriter ribbons.
Oh my gosh.
Typos in the letter were the same as on the ribbon.
That's funny.
Katie still denied it was her letter. She said she sent her letters out in September, but they hadn't been mailed until November. So it was clear there was this electronic trail. But Katie would not agree that she had mailed the letters in November. She said she didn't type it on a typewriter either.
Of course not.
She also had this app that had been deleted on her phone, but it was still in her app store and had a little arrow where all you have to do is press it and it'll download again, called the Cam Scanner app. I'm not familiar with this app, but forensics found it. A mountain of inculpatory evidence pointed to Katie setting up a shell company called Cairo Family Care in order to get the toxin ordered, and she did it all inside this app. Another item had been downloaded to her phone from the California Poison Control Center about this particular drug. Katie had also texted Adam a few weeks after his mother's murder, asking him to delete her phone backup because she'd done it on his computer. And once she realized he had access to her information, she was like, can you delete all that?
So she plugged her phone into his computer and backed it up at some point.
Yes. So all of these things that Katie has deleted off of her phone are still on the backup on Adam's computer.
Okay.
She had created a W-9 form and filled it out in Bill's name under the shell company with Mary's stamped signature. In the account settings of that cam scanner app, there was the original Gmail account that she had created using Adam's name, that Mr. Adam Yoder 1990 at Gmail.
She's making damn tax documents concerning the purchase of this colchicine.
Everything was right there on Katie's phone, pointing to Katie. The female DNA on the bottle of colchicine was determined to be, guess whose?
Katie's.
No DNA was left on the bottle belonging to Adam Yoder. He had not even touched the bottle. Law enforcement felt that Katie had planted the toxin when she was last in Adam's Jeep. When presented with all the evidence connecting Katie's phone, she sat still and presented no response. All she could say to law enforcement was, "How? How is any of this on my phone?" Like, just deny, deny, deny.
She's probably stunned they recovered everything.
Now, we know that most 24-year-olds, like the rest of us, are stuck to their phones. So when did someone have the time to take Katie's phone and scan all these documents in this app when she was unaware? I mean, it just did not add up.
And make notes.
Katie refused to tell the truth. She also tried using a coupon to purchase that toxin, leaving a trail. Like a Retail Me Not coupon app registered in her name.
Oh my God,
So
dude.
she's just playing stupid. She acted like she had no idea how any of this evidence ended up on her phone. The detective then tells her about this big piece of evidence, and then it's on the DVDs from the grocery store's footage. And he kind of like slides those over across the table, and a stunned look washes over Katie's face. That's when he tells her it's not Adam buying those gift cards. Finally, she admitted she had bought the prepaid cards. So this bluff worked.
Of course.
But she claimed she had bought the cards for someone else.
Oh, yeah, for an intermediary that was going to run them back to Adam. I mean, come on, Katie, give it up, girl.
Caitlin Conley was charged with second-degree murder in the death of Mary Yoder. At the trial, Katie's defense claimed that Bill was to blame for his wife's death. They believed he had likely laced Mary's daily protein shake with the toxin on the morning before she had gone into work. His motive was the alleged affair he was having with Kathleen. The prosecution disagreed. All the evidence pointed to Katie. Her motive for murder was revenge. Katie had done everything she could to get back with Adam Yoder. And when she realized he was no longer interested and would never be with her again, Katie was furious. She wanted to hurt him. She wanted him to pay for what he had done, so she poisoned Mary and sent letters trying to frame Adam for the killing.
Devious.
But the jury couldn't decide, and this first trial ended with a hung jury.
Well, see, the problem with the first trial, and from a juror's perspective, is all this, even though it seems very damning to me when you look at all the evidence, it is basically circumstantial evidence. We've discussed this before. At what point does circumstantial evidence pile up and turn into something else? But so you're left with this young, smart, pretty girl who has no criminal record.
From a good family.
And all these things, and you get some character witnesses up there and all that.
Oh, she's a college grad. She's got a 4.0. She's so motivated. She does volunteer work. She loves animals.
Well, yeah, and they do her hair a certain way, and they got her dressed a certain way.
Yeah, they've got her little glasses on, and she's got her hair all fixed. She looks all innocent.
So she, here you have this totally innocent-looking girl, and then you have all this circumstantial evidence. And so, yeah, the jury was hopelessly deadlocked. You had some holdouts on guilt, obviously. And that's a problem for the prosecution.
5 months later, Katie was tried again. Only this time, her defense didn't accuse Bill, but they focused on her ex-boyfriend, Adam. She suggested the same narrative. Adam somehow framed her. The state's case remained the same. Katie killed Mary out of revenge. When the case was sent to the jury, they were instructed to consider a voluntary manslaughter charge as well as the second-degree murder charge. When the jury returned from deliberations, Katie was convicted on the manslaughter charge.
Second-degree manslaughter. I didn't know there was such a charge.
There was second-degree murder and then, what was it? Voluntary manslaughter.
Voluntary manslaughter. Man, what the hell, dude?
So she's sentenced to 23 years in prison.
The planning, the premeditation, all the moving parts of this plan, the timeline, months, nearly maybe a year plus by the time she actually, gave her the poison. So I just don't, I mean, for her to get, and I understand it's how the system works. If you can't prove it, it didn't happen. But for her to get manslaughter charge when this was obviously.
No, it's BS.
First degree murder. I mean,
this is cold, calculating, premeditated. We're talking almost half a year of planning that went into this.
The attempt on
just underhanded, sneaky, these fake email addresses, paying with these prepaid cards. I mean, this is devious, Dylan.
Likely having poisoned Adam at one point as well. I mean, yeah, okay. So she's found guilty of a manslaughter charge.
Sentenced to 23 years in prison, Katie maintains her innocence. She remains steadfast in her claim that Adam was responsible for his mother's death. Now, there's a website devoted to freeing Katie. I think it's freeingkatieconley.com. It's interesting. Whoever operates this website completely ignores all the facts.
Oh, wow. That really helps.
Yeah. Despite the evidence, Mary's sister Janine has sided with Katie's supporters. She firmly believes that Bill killed her sister.
Really?
Yeah. She's even published a letter on that Free Katie Conley website where she talks about, Bill and Kathleen's affair, that Bill basically had said he only had enough inheritance that one person could retire, and that statement meant he was planning to kill Mary because he wanted to retire, but he couldn't afford to keep her around.
Oh, okay. So then he turns around and gets with someone else.
Yeah.
So they have to live off his retirement too.
Yeah. Oh, well, Kathleen actually has money. Like, she was well-to-do, and her former husband, I guess they were kind of well-to-do.
Oh.
So Janine's also pushing this narrative that, Bill's with Kathleen for her money.
So if Katie it wouldn't be impossible for Adam to still, because he could still reach, anytime he reached out to Katie, she allowed him around her and all that. So it wouldn't be outside of possibility for him to say, maybe won't to. I mean, this is pure conjecture. To plant these things, do these things from her phone, do these things from her computer, blah blah blah. But it's Katie's own behaviors that were the most damning part of it, right? Because you wouldn't be like, you wouldn't say, no, I didn't do this, and then, oh yeah, I did write the letters, or you wouldn't lie about this until they push you in a corner, and then, oh, okay, yeah, it was me. So I mean, it was her own admissions and lies and changing her story. Now, if she'd come out off the rip and was like, no, I have no idea, and was just, act like a regular person during all this, and was just like, I don't know what's going on, kind of the way Adam acted when they found the cultist scene in his vehicle. Like, what? I mean, he's literally dumbfounded. They could, it's like the cigarette fell out of his mouth kind of thing. But no, it was her own behaviors that actually prove her guilt, in my opinion.
Well, that and this forensic trail, I mean, computers, those trails don't lie. I mean, there's not you might delete a file, but these computer, forensic persons, they can go in and fucking retrieve everything.
It's not ever truly deleted.
That's ever been on your computer, right? So the fact that everything is traced back to Katie, I mean, I can't get around that. To me, that's so damning. Obviously, she did it.
And if anyone ever asks you to lick a stamp and then they turn around and place it in that evidence bag, you should be worried.
Mary Yoder endured one of the most painful and senseless deaths, gone before her time, and murdered by a young woman she had taken under her wing and treated like a daughter, which is just horrible. And in order to be on Team Katie, I think you'd have to buy into, one of the most vast and complicated conspiracy theories that, everyone's in on framing Katie.
Yeah, the cops are out to do it. Adam's out to do it. Bill's out to do it. Google's returning false information to the, the warrants and subpoenas. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, the world is against Katie.
The iPhone is betraying her.
I'm sorry, I don't see anything in this. Having looked at what evidence you presented me, there's no way. I mean, I feel confident in that Katie did this. She thought she was smarter than everybody in the room. The reason she got caught is her narcissism, right? Her narcissistic tendencies. She thinks she's smarter than everybody in the room. She believes her own bullshit, and she thinks she could talk her way out of anything.
Yep.
And those are, I mean, it's obvious as you broke that timeline down with investigators, the multiple visits with investigators, that was all obvious.
Today's resources, of course, I read a ton of news articles. This is a fairly recent case, so there's a lot of coverage through various news articles. You actually watched an Oxygen show.
Yes, Killer Motive.
Killer Motive. And We Thought We Knew You, a book by M. William Phelps, was one of the major resources I used for today's case. One of the strangest. I've never heard anything like this before.
No, this is a case of revenge, and we're not even. It doesn't. There's no evidence to ever say she was really ever even mad at Mary.
No, Mary's
seems,
like a completely innocent victim in all of this.
It seems totally to
it's
fuck
like happenstance
with Adam or get back at Adam.
That she just decided I'm going to poison Mary and not Bill, or vice versa.
And some people have floated the idea that maybe, just maybe, she wanted to make Mary sick, like Adam got sick and then kind of recovered, and that it was too much.
So. Was that theory that perhaps she would be able to muscle her way back into this family?
Well, she's working with Mary. She's close to Mary, and maybe it would, the simple. It's almost like a weird thing, like a Munchausen kind of weird. If she gets sick, and then I can step up at the practice, I can help, and Adam will see my value, and she just gave her too much and accidentally killed her. Either way, it's fucked up planning,
right?
And it's horrible.
Well, even in death, she was able to. Slime her way back in Adam's peripheral.
Well, and even if
he's inviting her to go with the family out of town.
Right.
And he's telling her, I need you, she's this big support system, and Katie's getting exactly what she wants, which is to be right back up in his business.
Right. So even if her intention was to make her sick, which is horrible as well, and then she accidentally gives her too much and kills her, she doesn't miss a beat.
No.
She's not devastated by this. She's not like people's like, oh, she was catatonic. We don't know what's wrong with Katie. She's taking this so hard. She just moved right on with her business. So who knows what her true intentions were.
Strange case.
Oh, my God. That was a good one.
Brought to you right here at Mountain Murders.
Yeah.
You can support the show by signing up at patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast.
Yeah, you want some? You come by and get it, because we got it.
Yeah, if you want to drop us an email, mountainmurders@gmail.com. And, of course, you can follow us on social media. Dylan, we were late this week with an offbeat. We haven't even dropped one, and we promised folks we were going to get back on a regular schedule. We're like Katie. We're fucking liars.
We're pieces of shit.
We are.
I mean, there's really no excuse for it, but our intentions are to get things normalized, and when we do miss it, we miss doing it.
We feel guilty.
We feel guilty, feel like we've let you all down, and we love you, and we will do better.
I shed a tear.
We'll try harder to do better. Is that a better way to say?
Harder to do better? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, trying harder to do better.
All right, everyone stay safe
Dylan
out there,
Pepperstyle.
and we will see you back here next week.
We will have an offbeat this week. I swear it.
Have done been offbeated.
I swear it on Katie's life.
Yeah, we can swear on that bitch's life. Fuck her.
Okay, so we swear on Katie's life. We will have an offbeat episode coming to you on Wednesday. Hope you are safe and happy the next couple of days. Be cool. Keep it real.
And be good.
Get jiggy with it.
Be good at it.
Yeah.